My fellow Saint Lucians, I feel compelled to address you in person about a very disturbing situation that has taken place. The Prime Minister of Saint Lucia, during a public town hall meeting in Vieux-Fort, as well as at the SaintLucia annual general meeting, made non-factual statements. In fact, those statements were so egregious, so irresponsible, so reckless, and potentially damning to the reputation of Saint Lucia, that I wrote to him in an open letter. One, to correct the non-factual statements, and two, to remind him that SaintLucia is a critical institution in the development of Saint Lucia. The HIA Airport is the largest capital project in the history of Saint Lucia, and one that holds the key to the further expansion of Saint Lucia. And said that his comments, statements, suggesting that there was some impropriety or corruption that took place during this project are defamatory, not towards Allen Chastanet alone, but to the board members of SaintLucia, the executive members of SaintLucia, and to the many institutions, local, regional, and international, that participated in putting this project together. The first statement the Prime Minister said was that there was no tendering. So I was happy to hear the former chairman of the tendering board of SaintLucia come out and say that that was factually incorrect. In fact, it was a lie. The reality was that OECC was selected as the main contractor, largely because the Taiwanese government was providing a loan of $100 million US. We all felt it was important that the Taiwanese felt secure in their investment and were given the assurances that everything would be transparent and the best decisions were being made. Fact is, OECC built the St. Vincent terminal, built many more terminals around the airport, and are currently involved in the redevelopment of the Taipei International Airport. They have built highways and ports around the world and conduct over billions of dollars of construction on an annual basis. So not only were they equipped to provide the necessary oversight, but to add value to the project. New building techniques, efficiency, and the senior management that they were providing. We had SaintLucia create a special unit of individuals dedicated to providing oversight to the HIA Airport. And Hewanorra International were also hired to provide the oversight. So part of the responsibility of OECC was that all the subcontract work would have to be tendered. So the first project that was tendered was the foundation and piling. The second project that was tendered was the main structure of the building. And every single component of this project would have been tendered. So, Prime Minister, you are corrected on that point. The second statement the Prime Minister made is that there were cost overruns on the foundation and piling. I have no idea where the Prime Minister is getting his numbers from. From day one, the cost estimate of piling and the foundation was $20.2 million US. The project was tendered at $20 million US, and the project was completed at $20 million US. No cost overruns. So the numbers that he's bringing in, about 300 piles and $4 million instead of $20 million, I have to tell you, I have no idea where the Prime Minister is getting those numbers from. That was never an estimate that was given to me, or I've never seen those numbers, and I have now reclarified, reconfirmed that the cost estimate was always $20 million, and that the price came in at $20 million. The third thing the Prime Minister said is that I, as Prime Minister, influenced or caused the airport terminal to be moved from its original location, which was behind the existing terminal in the parking lot, to its new location. Again, that's an irresponsible and reckless statement. That given the governance structure of SaintLucia, that it's an autonomous authority, the chairperson is always the director of finance, the deputy is always the PS of transportation or infrastructure, that the Attorney General's office appoints somebody in their own right, and that there are several private sector individuals that are nominated by independent persons to be on the board. So how is it that a Prime Minister can override that authority? And the truth behind it is that in 2008, 2009, when the airport terminal was designed to go in that location, I was the Minister of Tourism and I was the Minister of Civil Aviation. And I was aware that that's where the location was going to be. But at that time, the number of arrivals into Hewanorra International Airport were 250,000. When we came back into office in 2016, the number had already grown to 350,000 because American Eagle had stopped flying into George Charles Airport, and all of that traffic now was coming into Hewanorra. By 2018, we were well over 400,000 arrivals. And the pace that we are heading on is that in very short order, we would have been at 500,000 arrivals. So we knew that we had a problem, because to build a new airport terminal behind the existing airport terminal, and at the same time being able to demolish the existing airport, would have been chaos with those kinds of numbers coming into Hewanorra Airport. Chaos. Furthermore, the plan called for the demolition of the existing airport terminal. And now that we were looking at a cruise ship home port in view for it, the opportunity of retrofitting the existing airport once we had built the new airport to facilitate cruise ship passengers and charter flights was too compelling of a story. The fact is, it would make Saint Lucia world class when it came to home porting. To have a dedicated facility where passengers would arrive and be facilitated through a separate terminal. And then within a mile and a half, they would have been on their cruise ship. It was too good. Fourthly, that by putting it in a different location, and once the new location had been selected, we now saw that the airport terminal was going to be closer to their turnaround bay at the end of the runway. And that means that the taxiway that we would have had to build would have been shorter, because you have to make a parallel taxiway to make sure that you can improve the efficiency of landing and takeoffs. Right now in Saint Lucia, the plane has to wait for another plane to take off, and then it has to taxi down the main runway, turn around, and then take off. If you're going to maximize the amount of hours planes can come in, which is between midday and 6 o'clock in the evening in Saint Lucia, we had to have a more efficient system. So we had to build that taxiway. And putting the new airport terminal where it was, that the cost of building that taxiway would be reduced significantly. Also in that location, we could have a bigger parking space for planes. So if we ran out of space with the jetways, planes could now park in the tarmac and persons would be bused to the main terminal, like in many other airports. Again, maximizing the capacity of the airport. And finally, by having that airport in a new location, and that new location, change the exit and the entrance point to the airport for the public. So when you leave the airport, you're now on the La Ressource Road. And the goal was to now make that into a 4-lane highway all the way to St. Jude's Hospital. So imagine persons who are going to Laborie or persons who are going to Soufriere or going down the West Coast. Instead of having to go all the way around through Vieux Fort Town, causing added congestion and delays for them, now they could leave and just go on the La Ressource Road, simplifying their trip. And the new road that was realigned to meet the airport from the north end of the island was done so again to facilitate that location. I want to say that Hewanorra International, the Special Planning Unit at SaintLucia, ECA, and ICAO all participated in reviewing the potential locations. And the report that was put together made the recommendation that that be the new location, not AllenChastanet. Did I support it? Yes, because the evidence was there to support that decision. Finally, the Prime Minister has made this wild allegation, which he says is substantiated by some committee that remains faceless, that did a review and came up with the idea that the airport potentially could cost $1 billion EC. Now that's absurd. When this project first started back in 2006, 2007, and then was reviewed by the IFC in 2015, the cost of the airport terminal, building a new tower, and also putting in a new navigational systems would have cost 118 million EC dollars. And the departure and arrival would have been on one floor. When the airport was moved to the new locations and the decision was made to put departures and arrivals on top of each other, like many other airports around the world, to save on space. The land around an airport is valuable, and one never knows what the future is going to bring. And so the idea was to maximize the space available at the airport, including the discussions with Sol and Rubis, who both wanted their own fueling stations. And we insisted that they have one fueling station, exactly what happens in cul-de-sac to happen at Hewanorra and what happens around the world. And again, with the objective of maximizing the space utilization at the airport. So the new cost of moving the airport would have been $137 million is what the airport was going to cost. In fact, that is what the contract to OECC is, $137 million. $20 million of which was the foundation and the piling. The remaining part of the project, which was to furnish the building, the jetways, the furniture, the lighting, the plumbing, the electrical, everything else, FF&E, for the thing would be another $40 million. So the total cost of the Hewanorra International Airport, which all the drawings are out for, was $175 million US. That included the airport terminal, all the fixtures, the new apron space, and would have included the new air traffic control tower and the navigational equipment. The World Bank then lent $40 million US towards the project for the flood mitigation, as well as putting in all of the navigational equipment for the airport. So no billion EC dollars. In fact, what would be remaining to do on the project, whether we did it in the new location or in the old location, was the resurfacing of the runway and the building of the taxiway, which would be in a separate budget. So I have to ask the question, why would the Prime Minister deliberately provide non-factual information? Why would the Prime Minister be willing to jeopardize the reputation of SaintLucia and undermine the credibility of the government of Saint Lucia. Why? Is that the excuse that he needs to use to go to a different methodology? So I want to say to the Prime Minister, if that is in fact what you're trying to do, be man enough. Do the responsible thing. If you believe that there was a better way to do it, provide the evidence, come to the people of Saint Lucia and tell them you have a better way of doing the project. And everybody will support you. But this continual behavior by the current administration to demonize anything that Allen Chastanet or United Workers' Party started, and to somehow suggest impropriety, corruption, every single time. So the Rodney Bay Road. Where's the corruption? The same direct finance awards that were used to do all the roads in Saint Lucia were also used for that project. So why were the other projects okay and that one wrong? To want to suggest that infrastructure did not participate, that's ludicrous. All the plans were approved by infrastructure, all of them. And we had a major problem. Everybody knows of the congestion problem there and the unsightliness of what was taking place. Doing the Rodney Bay Road junction first does not stop any government from continuing the project. When the Labour Party did the VG roundabout all the way through Shock, one didn't say, whoa, it's not a good enough road because they did not finish it. We all understood that this would be done on a phased basis. So the reality is my government came in, redid all of the back roads in order to make it easier for people, the Corinth Road, the Grand Revere Road, all the roads through Babino. And yes, the Rodney Bay Road, which connected to La Tourette. In fact, it was infrastructure that moved the roundabout from MJI to La Tourette Road. The excuses that were given for stopping the housing projects, that somehow there was some scam taking place, it was a simple concept. The government committed the land to the project. The contractor built the project. No cash outlay on behalf of the government. Hundreds of people were being employed. And yes, when the first sales were made, the revenue was going to be split 80-20. 80% would have gone to the contractor and 20% would have gone to the government. But as soon as the contractor's contract was paid off, the remaining amount of sales, 100% would have come to government. And it was estimated that it would have ended up at a 60-40 split, 60 for the contractor and 40% for the government, on a piece of land that was sitting idly by, doing nothing. Here it is in the most critical time, creating jobs and, very importantly, providing new home opportunities for Saint Lucians both here and abroad. The same thing with Tavern. I have to say, I'm just amazed, astonished that this government continues to want to play the blame game rather than taking responsibility and telling all of us for once, what's the plan? Where are you taking Saint Lucia? And I have to say, I'm very concerned when you have a Richard Frederick in your cabinet, a person that you yourself went to the U.S. Embassy and complained about. The same Labour Party are the ones that when Richard lost his visa, said that he was not fit to hold office until he can explain why he lost the visa. Yet this is the same government that would embrace him and once you won, brought him into your cabinet, into the Prime Minister's office. Yet you now know, because you applied how many times to the U.S. government to get his diplomatic visa, and it was turned down. So now you know the truth, that his visa has been revoked permanently. You know through the letter that the U.S. government responded to his daughter as to why he lost the visa. You've seen the WikiLeaks stories. And you know that you went around and circumvented the system to let Richard go to New York. By doing what? by saying he had to represent the country at the UN? Really? All to get a one-time pass visa? And then want to push that off to the public as that his visa was being reinstated? The story of Ernest Hilaire. The same Special Prosecutors Act and the reasons why you felt that somebody should be prosecuted, which is a public officer using his position for his own benefit or for his family's benefit. All the evidence is there that Ernest Hilaire did that. He used his position as the High Commissioner of the UK to get a duty-free car for his brother. He lied to the British authorities. He put the car in the name of the Saint Lucia High Commission without the permission of the government. And against the Financial Act, he took possession of the vehicle. How? And then he came back home and said to the customs that it was his car. Yet he can provide no legal evidence to show that the car belongs to him. In fact, the invoice that he's presented is a commercial invoice with the Saint Lucia High Commission's name on it. So the question is, Ernest benefited from duty-free in Saint Lucia as well as in the UK. But in order to get the duty-free allocation or benefit in Saint Lucia, the car had to belong to him. And we all know that he deliberately put the car in the name of the state. And we now know that when he was the High Commissioner, he opened up a joint account with Jafali in the name of the government of Saint Lucia, the Saint Lucia IMO account. The Auditor General verified that fact and verified the fact that no permission had been given to open up the account by the state. When the monies were transferred by Jafali into the account, Ernest didn't tell anyone. And when he spent the money, he didn't ask anybody's permission. These are clear infractions against the Financial Act. But the government refuses to act on these things. In fact, proceeds as if nothing is wrong. Today we see crime out of control. We see a government that has refused to listen to suggestions on how to temper the impact of inflation and the supply chain issues. The same suggestions we've made, we've seen country after country around this region adopt the same principles, capping the gas prices, reducing the duty rates. But all this government offers is excuses after excuses after excuses. My fellow Saint Lucians, it is now very clear. It was never about putting people first. It was all about putting politics first. There was never a plan. In fact, they're just running this country day to day. And they alone know what the agenda is. It's very difficult to figure out. But the meanwhile, we're all losing. The quality of life in Saint Lucia has diminished significantly and continues to diminish. We have a government that doesn't care about Saint Lucia, its reputation, and our institutions. Anybody who seems to get in the way, they go after them. The fear of vindictiveness and victimization is palatable in Saint Lucia. And it's probably what's contributing in large part to people's silence. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I will not be bullied, I will not be intimidated, and nor will the opposition. And we will continue to safeguard the reputation of this country, continue to work towards the improvement of the quality of life of Saint Lucians, and to stand up for what is good and what is right. And what you're doing right now, sir, is neither good nor right. Thank you.